Hey, Steve.
Hey, Lisa.
It's good to be back at another conversation. I know I mentioned yesterday, I'll just mention it again. We didn't do it 2 weeks ago. We
Uh,
didn't have an opportunity to record because I ended up getting COVID and lost my voice as a result. And I missed this time together and I missed our conversation. So I'm glad that we're back at it. Um,
I know I missed it too, and I'm obviously glad to see that you're back and healthy again. That's the most important thing. But yeah, I'm equally glad that we're here for another conversation. It's part of my routine that I look forward to now.
Yeah, me too. And today we're talking about how to get unstuck in life, unstuck in relationships, um, unstuck in our career. So as I was thinking about this today, I was really curious about what it meant for you to be stuck. Like, what's what's the experience of being stuck for you?
Yeah, interesting one. I think it comes up. Well, for me, it has come up in like these cycles. I don't know whether this is the case for everyone,
Okay.
but like you'll be going along and everything feels all right, or you don't even think about anything. You're just getting on with life, and then all of a sudden, you just start thinking about one certain area of your life that just feels a bit heavy or
Mm,
something. And I know when I look back over my life, that has happened sort of probably every few years in different areas, whether it's relationship, whether it's work or something else.
okay.
And I think it typically comes in maybe similar to what we were talking about recently around comfort zone. You just get so familiar with the same thing, the same way of being, doing the same stuff, you eventually just get bored, right? And you're like, okay, I'm either bored or I've just got a bit used to this same thing. And maybe that same thing has slipped into some sort of bad behaviors. And you just start to become really aware of it, and there's that discomfort feeling internally where you're just like, I'm just not okay with this, whatever this is, whether it's work, relationships, whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, in a nutshell, I'd say it's just kind of, it just comes up every now and again, and it becomes really clear I'm not happy with this area of my life
Yeah.
and I need to do something about it.
I laughed when you said bad behaviors because I that got really kind of touched home for me because I'm like, yeah, I definitely remember um, getting into cycles where these kind of patterned bad behaviors come up, and it's a sign that something needs to change or I need to look a bit more closely to something. When's the last time you felt stuck?
Hmm. Last time I felt stuck, I think, I mean, it's probably to do with career. Like a couple of years ago, I took a break from work. I was just working, I was contracting, like independent contracting for,
Yeah.
I don't know, 10 years, just working, working, working. And I decided, like, okay, this routine is the same, find a new contract, earn some money, buy the things, go on the nice holidays, find another contract, just felt like this hamster wheel. Even though it was creating these good experiences, I guess, there was
Yeah.
still some discomfort around, like, you know, realizing that the good experiences are a small percentage of my time, but the big percentage is all the time you're spending like in these work situations or contracts. So I think just realization of, okay, this is just, I need a break. So I took 9 months off. In the end, I ended up just finishing a contract, taking a long break to just do nothing, to kind of reflect and go, okay, what do I miss about that life that I had? Um, and believe it or not, there were some things I missed about the thing that I thought I wanted to get away from, and that was kind of really interesting, actually. Maybe talk more about that in a bit, but essentially that was the last time where I just knew this is not working. I don't know what I want, so I have to just have a break
Yeah.
and just experience what it's like to do nothing, and just then allow these feelings to come up. I did a bit of journaling, and that really helped as well. How about you?
Uh, Goodness. I'm going to underline something you said because it's similar to, I think, my experience, which is sometimes from the outside, everything is seemingly good, right? You had a good role, you were living a good life, you were having experiences, um, and then you still feel you've got that feeling of being stuck. And certainly, I don't know that that's the last time I felt stuck. I think I'm almost in quasi stuck place right now, actually, if I'm honest, and I haven't assessed it thoroughly enough to really get um assessed is the wrong word, but I'm just going to go with that word right now. Uh so I don't know exactly what my stuckedness that word is about, but a few years ago I felt stuck at work too, and everything from an external perspective looked like it was good, right? Senior title, all the things, um but there was a monotony to it, or it wasn't even a monotony. I think it was, I really just didn't feel connected to the purpose, to like what I was doing. There didn't feel like there was enough meaning or purpose for me. And despite all that stuff, I just felt like I was going through the motions.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I totally get that. Very similar for me as well. I think when we say the word stuck, like I would, in my mind, I kind of replace it with almost like out of alignment or something. I feel like, you know, you go into these things, whether it's relationship, job, or some other area of your life, and you might start off for certain reasons and it's all fine because it's new. Everything new is fine normally because it's new. So it's like stimulating you. But then over a while, and you might have taken a job or gone into a relationship for the right things or because it aligns with your values or something, but then over time it can drift off. You know, when you're not looking, you can get pulled in different directions, whether it's through work, whether it's through getting offered promotions that you just accept because that's what you do, rather than do I really want it? Or, you know, your partner will say, oh, let's move here or let's do this, and you just go, okay, well, that's what you do, rather than really checking in with yourself, going, is this taking me down the direction I actually would choose to go if I was like driving, steering my own ship? And so I think sometimes when we think we're stuck, to me, it's often a sign of I feel out of alignment.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Feeling out of alignment. Because as you were talking, I was thinking of, I felt stuck in my relationship, like not stuck in the relationship, but like the relationship feels stuck. Um, and is it an alignment thing there? I think sometimes it can be an alignment thing. I think sometimes it's just a sign that we've gotten into a bit of a rut, that we're not spending enough time together, we're not connecting enough, we're not I don't know. It feels like there's a bit more to that relationship thing when you're feeling stuck in the
Yeah.
monotony of a relationship.
Yeah. I think it's like the reason for me, it feels like an out of alignment is because I know that some of the situations where I've been stuck, if I was to like look deeply at like my personal values or the things that I know I need to be happy that make me who I am, whether it's just a sense of adventure, serving others, or fun, you know, these are some values that I have. If I look at sometimes whether it's relationship, work, and actually go down the values, I've often been able to see, yeah, I'm not doing those anymore. When I started, I was fun, or I was being fun in a relationship because it's new, or at work, but actually now I look at it, I'm just not, and therefore I'm not getting it back. So for me, it has often come back to some of those values where I'm not really honoring who I am in these different situations as much anymore. And I think that leads to me feeling a bit stuck.
Yeah. Everything you just said really kind of hit home with me, because it's true. Even when I think of whether it's been my career, relationship, or just feeling stuck in general in life, I think I've disconnected from what's important for me to feel exhilarated and happy and excited. And I think the busyness of life has just taken over, and I've disconnected from that stuff. So I agree with you. I think values is a really important place to look when we're feeling stuck. Like, what's really important about what I want to get, what I want to experience, how I want to be in this particular arena.
Yeah. Yeah, because often we're sort of looking externally as well. Like if we're stuck at work or in a relationship or other situation, we sort of think that is not doing it for me anymore, or that is not the environment anymore. But it is useful to look at yourself and go, okay, if you take that all out of the equation, what do I need to be happy in a job or in a relationship or in this situation? If I wrote that down and reconnected with that and then looked at the scenario, like, is it that, am I doing those things? Am I actually giving those things in order to get some of it back? Am I expecting all that to be given to me? Or maybe actually none of it does align with me anymore, which is fine, because maybe the environment has changed since you went into the relationship or the work. And sometimes it is good to say, actually, nothing aligns anymore. And I can't even try to do anything about it because it's out of my control. But it's a really good, I think, starting place for anything is to look like, who am I? How does this align with who I am?
Yeah.
Who I am now.
Yeah, it's just getting clear on what's important to us, who we are, what we want to experience.
Yeah.
And then there's this other thing that you kind of talked about, which just kind of popped into my head as well, which is, I know in the past when I've felt stuck, I felt at some level like there's nothing I could do about it. And that's almost never the case, but our mind tries to convince us that that's the case.
Yeah, I agree. And I think there's two branches to it, actually. There's like, when you're stuck, it's like, is it that I don't want to, is it that there's nothing I can do about it? I physically can do nothing. Or is it that I'm too scared to do something about it? Like, there's like two different facets, isn't there? Because, yeah.
I almost think I'm going to add a third one. And the third one is that we're just so in the patterned behavior that we don't slow down enough to even consider what we might do. Because I know for me, I've gotten into pattern behaviors, and a client of mine just popped into my mind, was having a really hard time at work and felt like he wasn't being appreciated or valued, and just it was impacting all sorts of parts of his life, not just at work, but his physical well-being was being impacted. His relationship at home with his wife and his kids was being impacted. And all we did was slow things down enough to figure out what things do you enjoy and what do you want. And from that came like an insight of what he wanted to do. He took that little step forward and literally everything changed for him.
Yeah, I believe that. I mean, it is the smaller things. It's because we're, like you say, we're in this default sometimes way of being, that we don't even stop to think that there's another way of doing things. And I've always talked about this as like, when you're feeling stuck or something's wrong, it's just like, it's all in your mind and you're trying to solve everything sometimes, up here, and you just get mixed up. You can never find a way out, right? But I always think, write it down first. What am I stuck about? What's the thing? What is it? Just put some stuff on paper, get it out of your head and just look at it. And then, rather than trying to solve it, like find the exact answer as to like how to fix it, just focus more on like, okay, what is it I actually want? How do I want to feel in this relationship, in work? How do I want to feel first? And try and really imagine that feeling first, just to kind of, I don't know, because if you do that, it makes the how a little bit easier.
Yeah.
If you get into the state first, rather than just trying to solve this problem and going round in circles.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love the writing things down, because I think you're right. Our brain and our mind could very quickly get just caught up in all of the scenarios, and it goes quite quickly. And to pin it down, just that process, I know for me, calms me down, right?
Yeah.
Just the process of writing something down and pinning it down, right? Because your mind doesn't like it when we do that, but it helps us.
Yeah, we talked about this in one of the previous conversations we had around when you're anxious, I think. And it's just writing down all the reasons you might be anxious. When it's all jumbled and you just feel anxious, like writing it all down, look at it and go, okay, let's look at these things. Which ones feel like the biggest things? Circle them, right? What could I do? One thing I could do there. What's one thing I could do there? It's the same type of thing here, really. It's like writing down your stuckness. What am I stuck about?
Yeah.
What feels really important? Just trying to get it out of your head and just reflect, look at it. It feels so much easier to kind of start to manage or start to do something about it.
Yeah. And then the second thing you said there was actually looking at what can help me get into a state, which we've talked about before as well, but how do I get into a state? What can I do in this moment to get into a state that makes it a bit more conducive to coming up with creative ideas and insights and that kind of thing. Sometimes, as you said, we kind of try to figure things out, and we know that really insight doesn't tend to come from that place. It tends to come from a place where we're feeling good or we're doing something completely different, and we have that aha moment that comes over us. That's tends to be the way things come to be.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if you just think about it logically, like if you're someone that, if you feel like, oh, I'm someone that can't change anything, oh, it's so hard to change anything. If that's how you're feeling, that's so hard to change anything. That's what the energy you're sending to your body and out there, then it's going to be hard, right? If you just suddenly said, right, today I'm going to be a person that can create anything. It's like, right, today I know I'm a person that can change my job, or I can be in a loving relationship if I want. I know I'm that person. And if you actually said that and embodied it, it's so much easier to suddenly see some possibilities. And it sounds crazy, right? But it is actually as simple as starting with your state.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
and what you said there, my coach used to say this to me all the time, which was, I would complain about something or raise something in a coaching session, and she would look at me and she'd say, well, what do you want to create from here? Like, what do you want to create? You actually have the power to create something from anything. And so what wants to happen here? What do you want to have happen? And that kind of opened it up for me.
Yeah, I love that word create. And it's because the opposite is react in a way, isn't it? It's like you can either react to something, and react has a bit of a negative connotation. I can react, feels a bit sort of a bit tough. Whereas create, it's like, okay, there's things happening here, there's something happening there, but what do I want to build now? From knowing I don't like this, and from knowing I don't like that, what do I want to create that I know I would like? What's
Yeah.
the first step? You don't have to solve it, but like, what is the first step? Because I know for a fact for myself in jobs where I've been in that more negative mindset in the past, it's like, doesn't really help you get anywhere. it just takes up so much energy. Same in a relationship, negative mindset, it just causes so much stress, when actually, when you get in a creative mindset and you just think about, okay, what's one thing here that I could do that is, if I had no fear about doing anything, what could I do? What do I actually want here? If I had no fear about doing anything, and I didn't make any assumptions, if I didn't make any assumptions about my environment, what's possible in my work environment, what's possible in my life, in my relationship, because often a lot of the stress is coming from the assumptions we make that we can't do anything. Whereas actually, I know so many times where I've had conversations in a work environment where I thought this is never going to go down, or they're never going to want to move me to another area or move me to another city. And it's gone well, and I've all of a sudden I'm living a different life just because I had a conversation that I assumed would not go well. Assumption is the killer in so many areas.
Yeah, because we make up that we make up boundaries, right? Or we make up obstacles. We create them before we've even put them out there in the world. Um, and you're reminding me of that same client I just mentioned, which he did just that, as we all do, right? He just thought that they would never go for what he actually wanted. And then once we clarified what does he actually want, and he had the conversation with the people that he needed to internally, things started to shift and change for him. And all it took was for him to voice it.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Everyone has a voice. It's like you're allowed to ask for stuff. It's like, ask for what you want, really. Like, get clear on it first, what you actually want, and then just be someone that asks for it.
Yeah.
It's actually simple when you boil it down. I know it feels hard sometimes because we're not used to doing it, but imagine you are someone that just looked at what you want and then asked for it, with no expectation, but just continue to ask. Guarantees that some of those times you'll get a positive response.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's-
You're reminding me, one of the things they say to coaches as they're building their business is collect no's, right? Collect no's, go out and collect no's. And the idea is that you just put out what you want, and you make proposals, and you be in conversation, and then you're okay with the collecting no's, right? You're okay with hearing the no, because it actually is a signal that you're in action, and
Yeah,
not a signal that you failed.
yeah, exactly. It's funny how our brain makes up things, doesn't it? Just it makes up something about yourself or your self-esteem. If something, if you get a no to someone, or you might have possibly upset someone through asking, like we make it so personal. It's like our sense of self is dented, when actually it's a really, in the greater scheme of things, it's nothing unless we make it something.
Yeah. Yeah, we protect ourselves against the no or the rejection rather than going for what we really want, knowing that asking is probably going to get us, well, will give us a better chance of getting it than not asking at all.
And I think sometimes we like dull ourselves down a bit and say, oh no, I shouldn't, it's not worth it, and all of this, because we're just going through emotions of like, oh, that's just how we've been up until now, rather than again choosing that state of actually, I want to live an amazing life, live my best life, live authentically in alignment with my values and exactly what I want. And like, this is where coaching is good in a way, you know, like we've both coached lots of people, and it's like, yeah, because it's good, because they're holding you to really dream about what you actually want, and they're forcing you to think about it for more than 5 minutes before you cut yourself off because you're like, oh no, I can't have that. Coach, with a coach, they'll just hold you to it, right, consistently, to build that resonance, build that state of like, actually that is really what I want, and then help you to actually start creating it, because actually we all want that, really. We just stop ourselves sometimes, you know.
Yeah. So when it comes to feeling stuck in a career, for example, and I think uh, we can get into how it's different when we feel stuck in a relationship. But when we're feeling stuck in a career, what we're saying is clarify what you want from your professional life. What would make it exciting or exhilarating or lift you up, whatever word, right? But what is it that's important to you around your professional life? And what do you want to experience or get out of it, right? So clarify that, and then start taking some action according to what it is that you want. Like ask for what you want, put yourself out there, like actually take some action to get there.
Yeah, and exactly, and know that it's, and sometimes you feel scared about taking the action, but just hold that thought or that feeling that I'm doing this because it is aligned with where I want to be in my life. It's like, to get that sense of like, I want to be happy, I want to be content, I want to be fulfilled, so that I can put that energy out to others, so for them to then feel fulfilled. Because fulfillment generally starts here. It starts with you. If you're happy and living in alignment with you, with what you really want, you'll put that out and it will affect other people around you. So rather than feeling a bit guilty for like talking to the boss about whether it's a pay rise or moving to this department or, you know, whatever, it's like, I'm doing this because I want to be someone that promotes like living in alignment with yourself and being happy. And it will be for the good of everyone. It genuinely will be. And like you said, yeah, just start to take an action, take the smallest step first, and once you've taken 1 or 2 steps, you'll realize it's not actually that bad.
Mm-hmm.
It's like being outside the comfort zone, like we talked about last time.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would say when it comes to career, I think an exercise of asking, like, what is it that you still like? What are things that are still working? Like, so that you become clear on, because I think sometimes we get so stuck on the negative loop that we forget about the things that you still enjoy and you still appreciate. And I think I think those are important to bring some balance to our perspective. And then to look at, well, and then what would I add to it? Like what would really get me to the next level of excitement or engagement or and what's important from that part of my life.
I think you can do it from 2 angles as well. You can like look at your current, if you know your values, or you know kind of what you want, you can look at it from that perspective and then say, right, how does this career or this job, or what job shall I get that aligns with that? Whereas if you haven't done that work, it could be that you just look at your job now, your career, and say, right, like, what do I want more of? What do I want less of? Those kind of questions, just to derive certain things, and then you can say, right, is that possible here? If I didn't assume anything of anyone, is it actually possible? And
Yeah.
then you can start to have those conversations with people around you in the company or wherever, to start trying to navigate within the place you already are, because there is a lot of space for improving and navigating where you actually are. Even down to the fact of like, it might be you that has to bring more. It might not be that you need something from others. Sometimes I've worked with clients where they realize that it's just them that's not giving themselves what they want out of the job, because they're not showing up fully as themselves in the environment.
Yes.
Which is kind of interesting that you're stuck, but it's because maybe you're not being your full self, your true self in that environment. What would it be like if you were a bit quirky or a bit eccentric or a bit funny, or tried to make the meetings more fun because they're boring? What if you were the one that did that? You could actually affect the whole place, and all of a sudden you work in a fun environment. Believe it or not, I have seen that happen.
Yeah, I love that you're saying that, because it's true. Um, it's not always a changing of the external. Sometimes just that inner shift in perspective and how you approach something. Not only is it contagious, but it shifts how you see things, because that's just the truth of our biology. It's when we
Yeah.
shift how we look at things, then the environment is different.
Yeah. And a lot of people go to work like not for the subject that they're working on really, or the thing at work. Often it's the environment, the relationships, the way
Yes.
they get to feel, the things they get to talk about with colleagues. A lot of it is that. So again, if you shift the environment, some people, I know so many people that think I need to leave my company or change my whole career just because they're having a bad experience of this environment. But actually, if you can reshape the environment, and we've all got way more power than we think to be able to do that, you could be in a completely different world. You might not have to just change your whole life.
Yeah. And relationships are such a critical part of our careers. Often we focus on the work that we're doing and the contribution and our boss. But the value or the depth of the relationships you have there are so important. And that can be a place to get unstuck, to start investing in different relationships at work that connect you to that work more. That's really important. I agree. I've seen that be a real important place to look.
Yeah.
And then that whole idea around bringing all of yourself to work, I think I see it so often where we just bring the professional version of ourselves, and it tends to be a very small part of us, and it doesn't have the creative range, the fun range that we would normally share with friends and family. And while I think, there's a professionalism that you bring to work, I think we make that box much smaller than it has to be.
Yeah, definitely. You see it all the time. I think it's changing, thankfully, at least in the kind of environment I work in. I see more of it now. The world is changing, around bringing more of your full self. It's got a long way to go, but it feels like it's going in the right direction, at least, because people and companies and heads of companies are seeing that happy people deliver happier work, and eventually that impacts the bottom line of the company, right? So it's like, yeah, just allow people and promote people to be their full selves, and they won't feel as stuck working in your organization. They won't feel stuck or bored or restricted or confined. They'll feel more free. The other thing, just while we're talking of relationships, work unstuckness, is this is something that I've experienced myself. It's like you feel like to get unstuck or leave completely your job or your career, it feels like such a huge step. But one thing that worked for me was just feeling like, what is my urge to learn something about or to do without me changing the whole career, at least not overnight. And so I did a lot of thinking on that, started training in some other things, started doing some courses and all of that stuff, even though I was still doing my normal role. The fact that I had started doing something else, even though it wasn't my full-time job, but started doing something else in the background, started studying, started meeting new people in that other field, it really helped to balance, bring more balance. And I was less focused on the 9 to 5 stuckness, because I think it made me realize that, yeah, just being on the journey, just getting unstuck and getting on the journey doesn't necessarily need to mean just quitting something. you know?
Yeah, so even though you were feeling stuck at work, what you did was engage in something entirely different. And that kind of took the focus off of here for a bit and had you um, engage more deeply in a different space, right?
Yeah, and that's right. And it also, and it made me happier in my 9 to 5 work, probably just because I knew I was doing something else. I knew I wasn't just, I knew I just wasn't sitting there in my day-to-day work complaining. I was learning something on the side. I was training in new things. I was studying, you know. It's like I knew I was on a path. I wasn't just accepting this is it. So I think sometimes people get stuck and feel like I can't possibly retrain in a career, or I can't do this, or I can't afford. Well, just do something, and then see how you feel. And actually, you don't know what's going to come up, or opportunities will come once you start going down the other road. So I would always say to just don't feel it has to be an all or nothing thing. You can start to do something else on the side to help with that getting unstuck in work or in any area really.
Yeah, and I know for me, when I was feeling stuck at work, before I became a coach, I did that too. I started to engage in different areas to see what would excite me or engage me in a different way. And I have a friend who kind of, her work is very monotonous in the sense that she's been in the same role for a really long time. And she doesn't mind it because she has this really adventurous life. And so I think this is, similar to what you're talking about. She's okay with this being not where, like, it provides her with what she needs, which is enough engagement and enough contribution, but she doesn't get overly excited about work, but it funds this really exciting, exhilarating life where she goes from hobby to hobby, and that fills her up, and she loves it. And so this doesn't need to be the source of that. It does what it needs to do. She doesn't dread going there, but this is really where she loves to spend her time.
Yeah, it's like balance, isn't it? It's just having, every single person will have their own balance. Some people will be happy with that. Like that's my source of funds, and I commit to that between those hours, and everything else is me. But other people may feel like to have their own version of balance, it has to be all or nothing. They have to be living their purpose or their dream or whatever it is, which can then make other people feel like, oh, I should be living my purpose and dream, and they'll get all stuck and confused. But ultimately, we're all different, right? We're all different. So it's good that we're all different. But the key is that we all look at our own balance. What do I need? What are the pillars of my life that need to make me feel like I have a good equilibrium? So it could be a work, relationship, family, my extreme sport, hobby, my study that I'm doing for this other thing that I might want to transition to in the future. It's just looking at your life and going, does this feel like the right balance? Or does it just feel like monotonous? If it feels monotonous, then there's some work to be done to look at, like we said earlier, what do I want more of, less of? What's the missing pillar that's causing me to be a bit unsteady?
Yeah. So if someone is feeling like they're stuck, let's say they've listened to this, they're assessing their life, they're like, yeah, I'm feeling a little stuck. So we're telling them, clarify what it is that is important to you and what's missing, and what's bringing you joy now, and how do you take your next step? What other things are we saying that they can start doing to get unstuck?
I mean, if you wanted to take like a holistic look, like with a tool that often coaches can use is like this wheel. You have a wheel called something, could be called the wheel of life, where it's got different quadrants for different areas like relationship, health, mindfulness, hobbies, and various other things. You can Google it and find different versions of that. But it's quite a good tool to where you just rank each area of your life 1 to 10 based on your level of fulfillment. So how fulfilled do I feel right now about this? It doesn't mean I have to be earning lots of money or I have to have an amazing job. How fulfilled are you about it? Because if you do that exercise, or even just on a piece of paper, write down some categories and write 1 to 10, and just look at the ones that are like the low or lower than a 6, that is a really good indicator of where things might be slightly off. And from there, you're like, right, well, what would make this a 10? Just look at it and go, right, I've rated relationship a 6. What would make it a 10?
Yeah.
What's a few things? And start there to elicit the things that are causing you to feel a bit off balance, stuck, out of alignment, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
That's something I would suggest. What about you? Anything else that jumps out?
Well, I'm thinking of a question I ask myself often and I ask clients often, which is, what would you regret not at least trying or experiencing? You know, if you fast forward, if I fast forward 40 years, what will I have regretted not experiencing or not having at least attempted? And that tends to clearly bring up some stuff for me, where I can start looking a little more closely and taking some action around.
Yeah, definitely. It's like the dreaming, isn't it? I think sometimes we forget to dream. It's like get so lost in the day-to-day life and just following the pattern of the week that we sort of forget, you know, what do I really crave? What's my urge? What's my dream? What would I regret, like you said? And then just decide I'm going to be somebody that does stuff. I think it's as simple as that for me. It's I'm just make a decision from today. I'm going to be somebody that does stuff, that follows through on some dreams, or just follows an urge and tries it. Even if I don't know 100% I'll like it, if I have an urge, just try it. Try it a few times. If you still don't like it, then try something else. But I think it's just about getting out of the box, getting out of the comfort zone, like we said last time.
Yeah. And I think you're bringing up something that comes up a lot too, which I can't remember if we've spoken about, but we might have, which is sometimes we get stuck in trying to figure out the right answer, right? We kind of, when we talk about clarifying what you want, firstly, it's really helpful to have someone help you facilitate that conversation, whether it be a friend, a coach, or whoever, so that we kind of, because you can get stuck in that, number one, and then just be there for a while going, oh, but is that really what I want, or is it not? Is this really true, or is it not? Right? Like our mind can play tricks on us that way. And I think the second piece to that is like clarify what you want from a place that comes deep within, but then just go out and test some stuff. Because I know that when I made the decision to leave the corporate world, I knew I was stuck. I kind of knew I didn't want the corporate world for me anymore, but that's pretty much all I knew. I had no idea what was interesting or what would get me unstuck. Like I didn't know, but I was willing, as I looked back, I was willing to test a bunch of things and be wrong.
Yeah.
In the journey to finding the thing that I wanted to do, which I ultimately did. But I could have gotten, and I did for a longer, well, it was the amount of time that it was, but I got stuck for a while trying to figure it out without taking any action, because I kind of felt like I needed a sign, or I needed to have the whole plan figured out. I needed all these things before I could take action and get unstuck. And then that just kept me in the feeling stuck, right?
Yeah, it's because the mind always tries to keep you safe, as we've talked about before, keep you secure, keep you in the comfort zone. And yeah, it's about once you know that's the case, then you can start to kind of navigate around it. So I would always say, if you've got an urge or a gut feel, something's coming up here, just listen to it. Don't try and shut it down with, oh no, but that's not you, or you couldn't do that, or but you're in this relationship, or but this. Just try and listen to it, and then say, okay, what if I did something about that? What could it be? Or what if I just was, again, what if I was someone that just did stuff based on my gut and just did one thing and tried it? You'd all of a sudden become a person that just does stuff and experiences new things.
Yeah. And this is just coming up for me. Like there's almost a distinction between, I felt stuck in my corporate role. I mean, I loved my corporate career until I didn't. And then I felt stuck, and I was stuck for a while before I could figure out what would come next. But even now, I know with every cell in my body that I'm doing what I'm meant to be doing. I feel aligned to it. I feel like I'm contributing. It's meaningful. And I still feel stuck sometimes, but
Mm,
it's a different type of stuck. And I almost want to make a distinction between those two things. There is stuckness in the sense that it's like I've been there for a while and something kind of big needs to happen. And then there's that day to day where you just sometimes wake up and you kind of feel a little stuck. You just have that icky feeling. And that kind of
right.
passes. And there's some, tools you can do that day to just make yourself feel a little better, or to go into the emotion or let it pass. There's all sorts of things. We should probably talk around that, a casual conversation around that. But distinction there too, I think.
Yeah, I mean, nothing's ever perfect, is it? Like, I don't know if anybody in the world is living a perfectly unstuck or aligned life. If they are, good luck to them. Happy days. But I would say, 80-20 rule. As long as 80% of the time you're fulfilled and you're moving forward and growing, and that's a pretty good target. Because it's that whole grass is always greener. It's never going to be perfect. But ultimately, I think in your gut when something needs some small changes, or you need to bring more of yourself to the situation, versus this environment or this situation is wrong. It is completely unaligned. I think if you trust your gut, your heart, you tend to know that.
Yeah.
If you tune into it. I'm just thinking, actually, we've talked a lot about work, like relationships, like work, like intimate relationships. When you're stuck in that, what have you had that experience, and or have you got any specific tips when someone just feels stuck in their kind of one-on-one relationship?
Yeah. Yeah. I have felt kind of stuck. I mean, I've been in the same relationship for 30 some years. So with
Oh,
with that amount of time, you're gonna have times where you feel, like the relationship is stuck. Um, I would say that it tends, a couple of things. One, it probably means that we haven't connected, um, and had some time to really connect at a deeper level, and that's hard, sometimes with three kids running around to create that time. But it tends to be a sign that that's overdue. Two, I try to figure out what it is that I'm craving or missing or wanting, and then I have a conversation around it, and I start to provide, like I start to give that first, right, as
mm,
a way to because I find when I give it, there's something that's fulfilled in me rather than in my mind going, oh, I'm not getting this, I'm not getting this. Then what my mind does is I'm looking for ways that I can do that for someone else. um, and then three is just have an experience together, like go do something fun, like do something we wouldn't normally do together. And sometimes all that can be is going around the block for a walk together, holding hands, and that will do it, right? I have found in my own relationship that often what I make up in my mind is so much bigger than if I just take that little action to go, let's go for a walk around the block. The kids are watching something. We'll just tell them we're going for a walk. And that like is a huge shift for us versus, oh my gosh, are we at the, are we like, has this, like all the crazy right? Like, is this the right relationship? And da, 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 all that crazy crap that comes up when we're stuck in our head versus like, let's just go for a walk and see what comes up, or let's go,
mm,
schedule our date night, or, let's go do something fun together without the kids. Let's just go do something fun.
yeah.
I'll also say, I think, and this is slightly different, but I have very much one of the things from just a relationship perspective. When I first, at my younger Lisa, thought I had to get everything from this one man, and how unfair was that? And I don't anymore. And I think that has opened me up to have really meaningful relationships outside of my intimate relationship with my husband. But it's taken a whole lot of pressure off of him to be everything for me, and has uh, brought down all the expectations I had over this one relationship, when goodness, like there's so many meaningful relationships now that that I love and that bring me so much joy and meaning. And I wouldn't have those if I put all my eggs in one basket.
That's a really good point. Yeah, well, you've made a load of good points there, actually, especially about how the mind just makes up so much stuff about the relationship, and you know, before you know it, you've created a whole new world in your mind. what's going on, what they're thinking, why they did what they did, why they didn't do what they didn't do, and all of that stuff. And yeah, don't make, same thing as we said earlier, stop making assumptions, stop jumping to conclusions, just like be real and say to the other person, in my mind, this is what I have done. It's like, this is what's going on, or this is what I see, or don't put in demands on someone. I always say to anybody, just tell someone who you are. Like, say, look, I don't know if you remember, or maybe I wasn't clear when we met, but this is who I am, i.e. I'm someone that has these values. This is why I am what I am. These are the ones that are the most important to me. And that's why I maybe seem a bit crazy sometimes, because I really push them. I'm not putting those values on you. I'm just telling you that they are who I am. And I'm asking for your support in helping me live the values. And I want to know what yours are as well, because sometimes you forget what the other person's values are. You're just thinking about yourself so much. We don't even ask. We forget to either ever ask, or we just forget about them because we're sometimes wrapped up in our own world. So I think those kind of conversations are really good, at the beginning of a relationship, so that you're really clear who you're getting into a relationship with, and they get to design that with you and go, yeah, I get who you are. I see who you are. I'm this person. Yeah, this sounds good. Let's go with it. But other times, if you've never done that, it's quite good, even if it's 5-10 years in, do it again, do it. And just, you never know what you might learn. You might learn something about the other person that you just never heard before, because you've never had that level of conversation.
Yeah, I mean, 30 some years in, and I know that there are things that still come up where I'm like, oh, that's how you feel. Wow, that's really interesting, right? And it requires those questions to be asked.
Yeah, because when you know someone really, truly, like, you get to design how you are with them, and you get to know where you should compromise. If there's huge differences, then obviously it's like, look, we don't align. Maybe we shouldn't be in a relationship if there's these huge value gaps. But if they're not huge, then it's like, okay, this is where, as a relationship, we have to compromise, like every relationship does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the longer you're with someone, the more you think you know them. And so the bigger the assumptions become, right? Because, part of me feels, well, I really know my husband, right? I've met him, he was 16, right? We're in our late 40s now. So, I know him, but really,
Mm-hmm.
there's a whole other world inside him that I don't know. And we're always changing and evolving. So letting go of, I think I really know him, has helped as well, to just go into
Definitely.
this, right?
Yeah. Don't assume, again, it all comes back to assumptions. Don't assume, ask. And like, I want to really know you, like, be honest. And then if you model it by showing who you are, telling them what your values are, they're more likely to then tell you and have those kind of good conversations. And as you were talking, I remember this example not that long ago, where one of my couple friends, one partner was telling me one thing about the other person. Oh, they would never want this or never do this. And then the other person on a separate occasion said they would never want this, and they were talking about the same thing. So it goes to show, and I won't obviously say who those people are, but it goes to show you don't know. You think you know someone you've been with for years. You don't know. We make assumptions. So yeah, try and take the courage to be open and have those discussions. I think that can get you unstuck in many ways.
Yeah. So as we wrap up, what's one takeaway for you today?
Ooh, what's the key one? For me, it has to be something about spending some time just forgetting the world and writing down, what do I value, whether it's about a relationship, about work, or whether the word value resonates or not, what do I want? Just write it down, journal it, look at it, step back from it, and then say, okay, what is off here? It's like, and have the courage to do something. Don't just do it as an exercise and then go, oh, that's why I'm not happy, and then carry on being unhappy. It's like, just be someone that takes action and just do something and trust, and don't make assumptions that it won't. That was more than one thing I know. Don't make assumptions that it won't go your way.
Go your way. Yeah, and I would say the assumptions. That's a big reminder for me, just to let go of all the assumptions we make up. Like, recognize them for what they are, a made up thing, but really get curious about what's possible and what's happening, and then go from there.
Yeah. All right. Well, it feels like a good place to stop for this week.
It is. It is. We'll see everyone next time.
Yep. See you next time.